This is Good Morning Mumbai with HrishiKay.
I'm absolutely stunned. My friend Sanjay Suri is in studio and he's presenting La Miserables. I hope I've got the pronunciation right. Alexis is going to correct me on this one. How do you pronounce it, Alexis?
Les Misérables.
Les Miserables. I just saw Les Miserables and I urge you people, it is getting a theatrical release on the 13th. Please go and watch this film. It's a landmark. Nominated for both the Oscars as well as the Golden Globes. And of course, most importantly, won the jury prize at Cannes. Pleased to welcome Alexis, who plays the principal part, and Sanjay, who's presenting the film. Nice to meet you, Alexis, and a big fan of your work after watching this film.
Namaste. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Sanjay, welcome back into the studio, brother.
Thank you so much, Rishi. Your interiors have changed.
Yeah. You know, I'm very keen to know the market for these phenomenal films which are coming in with subtitles. You know, Parasite did so well. You did Shoplifters. So give me an idea or a perspective of the kind of audience there is for these films in India.
See, I feel and I know there is a larger audience, but the entire ecosystem doesn't exist, Rishi. So having grown up, I mean, I remember Doordarshan, we used to watch Kannada films, Malayalam films, Bengali films, but then slowly when the mainstream sort of TV started, everything became ad dependent. And similarly with films, there is no destination for these films. But if you go to the film festivals, whether it's Mami or Kerala Film Festival or Kolkata, these films, people are standing, queuing up right since morning to catch a glimpse of these films. So there is an audience, but there has been no ecosystem, no destination for these films. I'm happy that Parasite won the Oscar in the main category as well. So it's sort of extended into the other market, which people used to be curious about Oscar films. We released Shoplifters, very well received. India has seen some other Iranian films being released. But also it's also a habit of not, watching films with subtitles. But I think with Parasite and Shoplifters, this market is growing. So we can actually, Parasite went up to I think more than 100 screens, which with an Indian indie film would kind of peak at that level. So there is a growing audience. There's a growing the audience exists, but I think a regular programming and continuity is needed.
I understand that this actually started off as a short film before it became a big feature film.
Right.
And based on Victor Hugo's novel. So tell us about the background before you actually ended up filming the feature.
It's the name Les Miserables come from the novel of Victor Hugo because the story takes place in the same area as the novel. So it means that 200 years after the book, the poverty is still on this territory. And we start, me and my friend Lajli, the director, 3 years ago. He came with a script about police violence in his area because he was doing a lot of cop watching. That means that he was filming the cops in his area. And one day he filmed police violence. Then he sent the tape to the journalist, and the policemen were sentenced. So he wanted to talk about this, and he wrote the script. I helped him to write it kind of better, and he asked me to play in it. We had a lot of success, so producers came to us to do the long feature.
I find it fascinating that the kind of diversity that is shown in the film. And it's such a melting pot, isn't it, France? There is, people of European descent, and then there are people of the African descent and the Arab descent. And some of them are, obviously because they are immigrants, are not very well-to-do, economically independent or financially independent, as it were. And that causes a lot of crime on the streets because if there are unemployed kids and youth, that is bound to happen. So these areas must be very crime infested actually, like as is shown in the film, and that is quite an interesting dynamic between the law and the various groups.
Yeah, that's right. But I must remind that all of these people are French citizens. They come from immigration, but for 2 or 3 generations now, they are French. Just they have different backgrounds, different origin from ex-colony. And yes, they are stuck in these suburbs without transport, without cultural issue, bad education. So it's and poverty. They do the bad jobs for the other people, the rich people, and so there is a lot of criminality because of this. They try to struggle to life, and sometimes they choose the bad way.
Sanjay, one thing is to turn around and say this is an Oscar-nominated, Golden Globe-nominated film and it won a prize in Cannes, so I'm going to bring it to India. The other is, yeah, fine, it's award-winning, but what is the relevance to this country? And there is so much relevance. All these things he's talking about could easily be about India, or it could be about the suburban Delhi or Bombay.
Yes. To comment on the first part, when we decided on the film, it had not won the Cannes, and it had not gone for. Because when you're watching it, you decide, you meet the sales company, and you negotiate. Because before it wins the prize, the price can also go up, right? once the prize is won. So, and the Oscar journey and the Golden Globe, that happens later. For us, we connected with the film, and like you said, it's relevant. See, I personally have been a victim of ethnic cleansing, so I know how it is to feel like the other. And like Alexis is saying, that these people have been there for 2-3 generations, which means 20 years, 30 years. So their life standards have not improved. Its development does not only mean buildings and etc. So education, healthcare, and the discrimination, the disparity, the non-inclusiveness. That's an issue which is very relevant we've grown up with that in India. So it really touched a chord, and so that's the decision. I said, this film, you don't even have to read the subtitles to understand the emotions and the human drama. It's been called a political drama, but I think it's a human drama set in the backdrop of this class divide, misuse of power, yet at the same time acknowledging the frustration everyone goes through. So it's not black and white. And that's what I loved about the film.
Yeah. Les Miserables. Please go and check your local listings. 13th at a cinema near you. Alexis, only because you also wrote this film, you seem to understand the pain of all these various groups of people who are fundamentally all French nationals but with different antecedents. Are you just a bit about yourself? Are you a suburbs boy? Did you grow up in the cities?
No.
How do you understand this pathos so much?
I was born in the center of Paris, but I was always curious, and I had many friends who come from there. So I crossed the how do you say? I went to the suburbs. I went to see how they live, and they are coming also to Paris. Largely, the director is also a person who is very curious, who is who wants to see something else, and who fight for himself and for the people he like to understand this. So I try to understand this pain. It's very hard, but it's also the problem is because when you've got this kind of poverty, everybody's trying to help his own community, and poverty causes the people get more divide, and that's the problem, because the government or the people who get the power, they want these people to be divided and to fight each other, so they don't fight the government or the powerful people.
It's called the divide and rule policy, and Sanjay will tell you that in India we've seen it from colonial times.
Absolutely.
But I have to say this about this film, is that do not, all of you who are listening to this, think that it's only a gritty film about underbelly. It's got moments of humor, like for example, Sanjay, that the humor when the gypsies come in, and it's almost as though they're talking about a human being, and it's not a spoiler, it's as though they're talking about a human being, but actually it's a lion cub.
It's a lion cub,
and you've got to have humor in there, man.
That's what they do it beautifully, so organically, without digressing, and it doesn't seem like an item scene, it's been planted there. But I think the multicultural and various ethnicities living in the same suburb or around, very territorial. Like you go to a jungle, one line, another line, they're territorial. So these places also get very territorial. And And that's what Alexis is saying. It causes the problem. So yes, humor. I back you. It might be gritty, but it's very energetic. It's very stylish.
Yeah.
And largely his first film, I must compliment the director for how the screenplay, how the movie moves. It's not static. But it's a big screen experience. Please don't watch it on your mobiles.
It is, because Indians in particular, if you tell them festival film, boring, slow, it's not. It's gritty, it's fast. So the entertainment element has got to be emphasized. I'm also very fascinated by the child actors, because most child actors are, in English, there's a word called precocious. They look very fake. I mean, they're not to blame, they're children. Mm-hmm. But the child actors are absolutely phenomenal. The boy who plays Isa, for example, who's a little boy in there and who's a victim of police brutality. I mean, who's this kid? He's fantastic.
He's crazy. I really to play with him was such a great experience. He's so natural. He's not looking at the camera all around. And when he started, he was very shy. He's a rough kid. He comes from this area. He had a lot of problem. He's as the character. They got a lot of similarities. But at the end of the shooting, he was just telling Laj, please put the camera here. And he was noticing everything. It's very impressive.
Yeah. And you know what they say, and we've seen that enough in India too, that if there is a revolution, it always comes from the younger generation, comes from the kids and the students and things like that. And we saw that play out so recently in India.
Absolutely. So that is the entire messaging on the film. Basically address the germ, the seed. Because if you go wrong, the seed, how it populates, it's going to be a reflection of what you're feeding them. So one has to be very, very careful. What we say, what we speak. Let's not be irresponsible. The next generation, how we want to look after our own children. There's someone else's child on the streets. So we need to have a different approach. I would love to show this film to anyone who's in a position of power, whether it's the police or the state. I think it sensitizes you if you're not sensitized, and if you are already sensitized, it still further awakens something in you, because we tend to forget very easily. So I think it poses a very, very organically a very effective and powerful message and a sensitization in the form of entertainment.
Alexis, now I want to come and talk about your part, which is Chris. And to me, it's fascinating because you start off hating the guy and saying, "What kind of guy is he? Why is he pulling up little girls and harassing them and things like that?" And he's really nasty to the new cop and things like that. And then eventually, when you see the graph of your character, from being ruthless at some say, for example, when he goes back home, and the young daughters are playing, it's a very, very interesting part. You must have loved biting into this part. So a little bit about Chris, so that we can tease the audiences to go into the theaters.
Yes, I play Chris, a policeman who is working here in this bad area for 10 years. He's the main cop. He's the leading one, the leader. And he's acting with a lot of violence. He's corrupted and he's racist. But we didn't want it to make him stereotype. So as everyone, he's very complex. And as the movie is moving, you see that he's very complex. He can have sense of humor, and you can see that he's very, very sad and suffering from something. And after you discover that he's going home, he got family, he got 2 little children, and so it was very, very interesting for me as an actor to play. As Hitchcock say, as bad as is the character, as good is the movie.
Sanjay, responses at screenings. I was in a screening in which there was Shonali, who directed Margarita with a Straw and The Sky is Pink. Nandita Das was at that screening. Sandhya Mridul was at that screening. What are the kind of reactions you've been getting to people when you're showing them this wonderful film?
They're completely taken in by the film, and actually very, very happy that a larger Indian audience is an opportunity to watch it. And more than that, they just feel so relevant to our society. That's the take home. It's so relevant, and they're gonna talk about it and try and show the film to maximum people. So it resonates. The story, it might be a local story. It's globally themed. It's all over the world. We have this issue, and so it's resonated. It's touched a chord, which they're taking home this film. Last night and a few nights back, we had a couple of screenings, and I'm still getting messages. So it's staying with them. And also the other complaint, why don't we make these films here? So as I figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's bound to inspire any young kid who's going into film school or is just trying to learn himself. And you were talking a first-time director here. Have you written scripts before? I know you're an accomplished actor, but
no, it's the first script
wow. So
Yeah.
So if young kids can watch this and be inspired and say, I want to put out my first script, I want to direct my first film, I think the objective will be achieved.
Yes, and not only young. In fact, a writer I've worked with, Urmi Zubekar, she was there yesterday, and she loved it. And she was so re-inspired. She said, "I'm glad I watched this because somewhere you're kind of losing that touch, and within the OTT sort of floodgates have opened, and when everything is data driven, you may not be allowed to make what you want to make, and the studio system. So where do the indies go? So these films, she was inspired. She last she wrote was Leila, and she's worked on I Am with us, and she's worked on Dibakar Banerjee's films as a writer, and she's a very acclaimed writer. And she had come, and she was re-inspired.
Alexis, give me reactions. How was it? Did you go to the Globes? Did you go to the Golden Globes, to the Oscars,
I went to the Oscar. Yes.
How was it? Yeah.
Well, it's crazy to see all this cinema in cinema. It's like Los Angeles. It's like a city where everybody wants to be actor, but without camera. So
that is the coolest line of the interview so far.
Yeah,
everybody's always acting in a way. Yeah.
They want action, but they don't want cut. So yeah, but as a foreign movie, people are not looking much at you. You're a foreigner, and they love their cinema. And but it was very good experience. I went to also to Independent Film Festival, and I saw all the actors I like William Dafoe, Scarlett Johansson, or Adam Driver, or Nicolas Cage. I mean, a lot of people
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to now get down to this brass tacks. Scarlett Johansson is hot. Is she as hot in real life?
Yes,
just checking.
Yes, she is. But when you finish the Oscar and when the ceremony is done, if you don't get prize, everybody gets to go to take his limo, to take the taxi, and everybody's mixed. So I was waiting for the taxi, and she was just in front of me under the rain, waiting for 20 minutes, and that's the law of the Oscar. If you win, you get a special special taxi, and if you lost, you're with everybody, and you
but it's not looked down upon if you come in a taxi, right?
No,
yeah. So something to learn over here. And I have to tell you, Rishi, I mean, we're sitting with the most promising actor in French cinema right now. He just got the César Award. The film won the award.
Oh,
the
many
French
congratulations.
Awards.
Lovely.
And he's so grounded, and he's very simple, very cool, very casual. Him and Alexis and Omar, who's also here in India. But I fed him some keema pao yesterday, so he's got a stomach bug.
You nasty man. How can you do that to our guests?
You gotta do it. Indian hospitality.
At least he'll say I had Indian food, That's the way it is. So you didn't manage to go to the Globes and Cannes, but did you have reactions? Did you get the reactions from people? How did they respond to it?
It was really crazy. I discovered the movie when I was in Cannes on this big screen, who's amazing, and with 3,000 people. And it was the first time I was watching it after I've made it, and so it was the reaction, the people who were crying and who were, coming to us and telling this is a necessary movie. This is lots of humor, energy, and it wanted to make some good stuff in life and to look at each other in another way. So it was. I can't believe it now. We didn't expect at all of this reaction and prices. So
And you must agree with me as a cinema lover and somebody who works in the media, Sanjay, that the shot taking in terms of the cinematography is breathtaking. I mean, whether it's the drone shots or, the shots of the communities and how it just sucks you in the camera.
It sucks you in, and it just, exactly, it's so organic and it's so dynamic. It sucks you in, and that actually plays on your mind. Because remember, the visual enters your retina and works on your mind, and you get seduced into the film.
Who's a cinematographer? Would you like to tell us about him or her? Yeah.
Largely, I met him 20 years ago. He was an actor at the beginning. Then he did a documentary.
So he's the cinematographer himself? Did he shoot it himself?
No, the
camera?
DOP.
The DOP. Sorry.
No, the DOP is Julien Poupard. He's amazing person, with a lot of discretion and a lot of energy, because we didn't have so much money to do the movie. It's like 1,200,000, something like this. I mean, it's a low budget for the French cinema, and so we were spending all days from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening, shooting and getting everywhere. And this area are very oppressive, so it's you
Not
need
easy.
energy, and he got the eyes, and he catch. He didn't film the people as ugly. He wanted to make everything beautiful and people beautiful, and I'm really impressed by
But
his work.
it's always moving the camera.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a lot of drone, of course, but a lot of
Yes.
handheld.
Yes.
Even
Yeah,
because
most of the
it
movie.
captures that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
it's
sometimes
like
the
that
unease and the restlessness
Uneasiness,
also. Yeah.
restlessness.
So, sorry, come back now to largely the director. You were telling me about him, and I interrupted you because I wanted to finish the
Yes.
cycle of the DOP. So, a little bit about the director.
But he comes from this area, and he still lives there. He has a lot of success, but he don't want to move. He stay there with his family, and he built a school in this area, a cinema school. He with not a lot of money. I know everybody wants to give him money to participate, because and it's a school without money and without age limits. You just go, and he didn't make school, but he wants people from this area to go and to make cinema, and he wants to show that you can do cinema even if you don't have money or you didn't have study cinema. And he come from documentary, so that's why this movie is like with the camera
Run
on
and
the
gun.
shoulder, and you can feel it when you watch the movie. You're close to the character, and
Yes. Fantastic. How beautiful is that?
Beautiful. Les Miserables, the French film with English subtitles, brought to you by the wonderful Sanjay Suri and his Kava Entertainment, and a bunch of very interesting people who are associated with it. It's in theaters on the 13th, and please check local listings. You must go and see this. This is fabulous stuff. And at the end of the day, I mean, whether we are at the Oscars like Alexis, Sanjay, we're broadcasting out of a small room like this, or you going to Cannes and things like that, we're all artists, man. I mean, we're kindred souls, and that's what binds us together. So I'm just so happy. Keep making your art. And
Thank you.
Sanjay, keep bringing us, films like this. Keep your antenna up, and also creating all the original content that you do. That's really lovely.
Thank
and
you.
I want you to just sign this off with an important thing you said, or somebody said yesterday, saying that, it's okay, it will come to OTT. You might get onto the Netflixes and the Amazons of the world, but this is a cinematic experience, and some things the phone can't do for you. So
See,
why people need to get into the theaters to watch this?
I relate it to a WhatsApp relationship, an emoticon versus a real hug. So when you go into the cinema theater, it's a dark room. It's your date with your cinema, and you are giving it undivided attention. I think somewhere it's a community experience.
Yeah.
Watching a film in isolation and watching it with many people, it has that different experience. We were sitting in a radio station at one time. We thought radio's dead, and look what radio's done. So I think, yes, certain films definitely need that cinema experience. Les Miserables is one of those, and you will enjoy. It's like Roma, even. Might be a
Yeah.
film, you've watched it on your TV, But when it comes to the theaters, you would want to watch it in the big screen, on the big screen.
My last question is revolving around Women's Day, International Women's Day, Alexis. And this whole month we're celebrating on the radio station as International Women's Month. And we are asking everybody who comes onto the radio station, who is a woman who inspires you? It can be somebody from your family, your friends, your circle, or it could be somebody popular. A woman who inspires you and why you're inspired by that woman. And a shout out on Women's Day.
I think it's my mom or my grandmothers, because they teach me to never put myself into in a victim, and always fight. And yes, I think it's important to defend the woman and the women rights. Today, all men should always be on their sides to fight all of the abuse, power abuse, sexual abuse, and it's very important. And it's more than a day. I think it must be every day, but it's important.
Sanjay, a woman who's inspiring, who you look up to?
My mother, a victim of ethnic cleansing, lost her home, husband, business, 2-time cancer survivor, but does not complain even once. And she's a fighter. She's fought it all along, remains positive, and there's so much to learn. And in connection with this film, actually, we were young when all this happened. So when you're slapped on the road for no fault of yours, you can go either way. And she gave us the wisdom to follow the path of peace and inclusive life at a very young age. And that's what sort of remained with us. Never, no religious divide ever. Humanity was a religion. Yeah.
Lovely. Alexis, thank you for rolling by. Sanjay, thank you for rolling by. See you soon, you guys.
Thank you so much, Rishi. Always a pleasure.
Great.